Looking to buy your first home but struggling to make sense of all the confusing terminology? Don't worry, you're not alone. It sounds like a foreign language to everybody at first. In this video, I will explain over 20 real estate terms that you need to know. But first, if you're new here, my name is Michael O'Day. I'm a real estate agent and a new build home expert in Salt Lake in Utah County. I provide education for first-time homebuyers and really anybody needing help navigating new build construction for the first time. All right, let's get into it. The first step in buying a new home is getting pre-qualified. Pre-qualification is a rough estimate of how much you might be able to borrow. You want to make sure to talk to a local lender, as they will know about any first-time homebuyer programs that can potentially help you afford a home. The lender will ask you basic questions about your income, any savings that you have, car payments, student loans, and any credit card debt. They'll ask you for your credit score, but they won't have to pull your credit at this point in the process. This conversation is meant to give you an idea of the price of house that you could potentially afford. In Utah, if the amount the lender tells you that you can afford is less than $350,000, you're probably going to need to work on paying off some of your debt or saving up a larger down payment. Also, you can work on improving your credit score. Most starter homes in Utah that qualify for the first-time homebuyer programs, they're priced between $350,000 and $450,000. So if you need to work on your credit score, paying off debt, it might take a few months or a few years. But the lender will be more than happy to touch base with you on a regular basis and rerun those numbers for you to let you know when you're ready. If you need a little help with a strategy for paying down your debt and increasing your savings, a financial advisor would be a great resource. Most people think financial advisors only work with the wealthy, but that's just not true. A good financial planner will help you grow your wealth. They'll be happy to help you create a debt elimination plan. And if you want to be connected with a good financial advisor, I have a few I can recommend. The next step is pre-approval. Pre-approval is a lender stating in writing how much they will lend you. This time around, they need actual documentation from you. They'll ask you for things like your W-2s, social security number, and bank statements. Getting pre-approved allows you to house shop with confidence within a certain price range. That way, if you stumble across your dream home, you are ready to have your agent write an offer before someone else buys it out from under you. What exactly is an offer, you ask? Good question. An offer is a letter you submit to the seller stating the price you're willing to pay for the home and the terms of the purchase. Before taking their home off the market, the seller usually requires you to pay earnest money, which is a token amount that shows that you're serious. At this point, you become legally obligated to move forward with the purchase. This is what it means to be under contract. Be aware that earnest money is usually non-refundable. If you change your mind and back out of the deal at this point, you forfeit your earnest money. It acts as compensation to the seller for taking their home off the market, which might have lost them other potential buyers. But don't freak out. A good real estate agent can advise you on how to protect yourself by giving you a few ways to back out of a deal without being penalized. These legal loopholes are called contingencies. Contingencies are conditions that must be met before the real estate transaction can be completed. Common contingencies include a home inspection, which allows you to have an inspector inspect the property. If they find any issues that the seller failed to tell you about, then you can back out and still keep your earnest money. A seller is legally obligated to tell you about any issues with the home that they know about. This is known as disclosures. If the seller asks you to waive a home inspection, run as fast as you can. That is a huge red flag. And your lender typically requires this, so the deal would have fallen through anyway. Another common contingency requires an appraisal. This is another one your lender likely won't budge on. An appraiser will evaluate the inherent value of the property. If the value of the property is less than the asking price, you may be required to increase your down payment to help close that gap. If you're either unable or unwilling to pay over the appraised value, having this contingency written into your initial offer allows you to walk away without losing anything. A financing contingency gives you time to lock in your mortgage and your rate with your lender. At this stage, they will provide you with a pretty accurate estimate of what your monthly payment will look like. Your payment will include interest, which is the money the bank charges you. It'll include principal, which is the portion of your monthly payment that pays off the house and eventually turns into equity. It will also tell you how much they need to collect each month in order to pay for your annual homeowner's insurance, which is basically like car insurance for your house, and property taxes, which pay for public services like roads and schools. The estimate will also include any costs you'll be expected to pay before the title of the property can be transferred to you. These clauses protect both you and the seller, and they allow for either party to withdraw from the deal without penalty if the conditions of the other party aren't met. There are plenty of other contingencies you might want to include in your offer, but just ask your real estate agent and they'll be more than qualified to help you with that. If everything goes well with the home inspection, the appraisal, and you're feeling comfortable with the monthly payment and the interest rate that you get quoted, and all other contingencies are met, a date will be set for closing on the home. Closing basically consists of signing a ton of paperwork, writing a big check, and officially becoming the owner of the home. Nowadays, it's probably not a check. You'll probably have to transfer money from your bank, but tomato, tomato. This is often referred to as going into escrow. There are a lot of people that need to be paid in a real estate transaction. This includes your agent's commission, the seller's agent's commission. It also includes paying off the balance of the seller's mortgage if they don't own the home free and clear, and depositing the remaining proceeds into the seller's bank account. This is all handled by an escrow agent. An escrow agent is a neutral third party that holds all of the funds related to the transaction and makes sure that everybody involved in the transaction gets paid according to the terms of the contract. You thought I wasn't going to explain closing costs, didn't you? Closing costs refer to all of the fees associated with closing on the sale of a home. They typically include a loan origination fee. That's how the lender that you've been working with gets paid. It's also common for them to make you pay them back for the appraisal that was done. There is also something called title insurance, which basically ensures that the person selling the house actually has the right to sell and that no one has any liens against the property. A lien means that the house is acting as collateral for another loan or outstanding debt. And you really don't want the previous owner's debt becoming your debt. Be prepared for these costs, as they can add up to several $1,000s. Again, these will be covered in the loan estimate provided during the contingency period when you can still back out. The exact amount, which will be very close to what was listed in the original loan estimate, will be provided by the lender 3 days before closing. This gives you adequate time to review all of the costs before you have to sign the closing paperwork, and that 3-day period is protected by law. Your lender will also likely require that you prepay any interest that will accrue between closing and when you pay your first mortgage payment. This is known as prepaids. You also often have to prepay a portion of your homeowner's insurance and your mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance, or PMI, is required when you don't have a 20% down payment. So you end up having to borrow more than 80% of the value of the home. This can end up costing you a few $100s a month. This portion of your monthly mortgage payment will go away once you either pay down your loan below 80%, which usually takes about 7 years, or it can also go away once your property's value increases enough that your equity pushes you below that 80% threshold. Removing PMI early in a situation like this will require that you pay for another home appraisal for your existing lender, or you might need to refinance your mortgage, which basically means repeating everything we just covered all over again. Hopefully all this information hasn't made you more confused, but don't worry. You don't need to remember all of this. That's what your real estate agent is for. If you are looking for a home in Salt Lake or Utah County, I would be honored to guide you through the home buying journey. If you're looking elsewhere in Utah or even in another state, my team consists of thousands of agents in cities all across North America. I would be happy to connect you with one of my trusted colleagues who is a local expert in your area. Click the link in the description below in order to schedule a free homebuyer consultation with me or one of my colleagues.